There's something profoundly important and increasingly urgent in our fast digital, distracted world. The quiet, what the Princess of Wales calls the sacred work of early years learning. This is something that I was heavily involved with when I was working in the university in Russia. I was working in the same university that had been the base for Piaget, for Vygotsky, and we were looking particularly at the work both of Vygotsky and of Piaget, and these two giants in early years education were focusing on the importance of education through play, and it begins not in school, not even in nursery, but in the home. And the Princess of Wales, in her most recent campaign through the Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood, has reminded us, through a remarkable series of animated short films, that everyday moments of connection in a child's earliest years are not trivial. They are not background noise. They are formative, foundational, and transformative. Beginning with the simple truth, early childhood is the golden opportunity to build the strongest foundations for lifelong learning, for well-being, and for resilience. It's not sentimentalism. It's a position grounded in developmental psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral science. And what do I mean by immediacy? Quite simply, that children do not live in abstractions. The immediacy and the intimacy of early learning is about a toddler who understands the world through the touch of a parent's hand, the melody of a lullaby, the smell of warm toast in the morning, the feeling of being looked after, truly looked at by someone who loves them. And this is the intimacy that we need to protect and to nourish. The soft-spoken moment when a child falls, when a child scribbles their first letter, the quiet confidence they gain by stacking blocks, the thrill of drawing a wonky house in crayon, colouring it in, not outside the lines. These are the early notes in the symphony of selfhood. And developing skills like speaking, drawing, or even simply playing with others is not about ticking milestones on a checklist. It's about establishing agency. It's about developing identity and the ability to express emotion and control emotion. And this is where patience becomes not just a virtue, but a strategy. Children learn to control their anger, their frustration, their sadness, not by being told off or ignored, but by gently being shown how to pause, how to breathe, how to name their feelings, how to smell the flowers, literally and metaphorically, how to find ways to engage with their emotions. And the new films launched by the Princess centre precisely on this point, that managing big feelings together is not a weakness. It's a training ground for future relationships, for resilience, and for social empathy. And the home and the nursery are a shared responsibility. Learning doesn't only happen in the nurseries. It happens. It's a continual process. It doesn't begin with phonics or numeracy exercises. It begins with an adult slowing down and noticing how a child explores a spoon, how they react when a tower of blocks collapses, how they share or don't share, how they share their toys, how they try to understand what someone else is feeling. And nursery settings are crucial for socialization, for learning turn-taking, for learning kindness, for learning cooperation, for learning not to kick or to hit. But this must be mirrored and developed at home. And Kate's films are a direct challenge to the idea that children are best left to the experts. They are instead a call to the parents and carers to be present, not perfect, just present. And we live in a culture of distraction. Screens interrupt, schedules dominate, economic pressures leave little room for stillness. But early childhood that learning depends on exactly the opposite: slowness, presence, repetition, lots of repetition, warmth. And in this rapidly changing world, as the Princess rightly says, What will matter most is where the children feel safe enough to explore, heard enough to speak, and loved enough to try again after failure. And we mustn't trivialize play. Drawing, pretending, singing, making mistakes, these are cognitive laboratories. Through play, children develop storytelling skills, emotional flexibility, resilience, and this goes on for the rest of our life. Drawing is not about art, but about symbolic expression. Scribbles become stories, stories become thoughts, thoughts become arguments, ideas, dreams. Stories often become comics. There's a political dimension too. The princess's work avoids overt partisanship, but her message is clear. If we get the early years right, we reduce the long-term burden on health services, mental health provision, and even criminal justice systems. Invest in infancy. A staging post. It's not a waiting room for real life. It is real life, and it's sacred. And if we miss the chance to connect, to slow down, but not sustain a conversation. So we need to listen to the princess's call. We need to be patient. We need to connect. We need to shape the future by showing up in the present.